Good morning and welcome to Probate Court 2. We are about to start our morning docket for our estate matters, and you are welcome to watch, but I will remind you that recording or reproduction is prohibited. Good morning and welcome to Probate Court 2. Good morning, Mr. Naylor, and welcome to Probate Court 2. You are on mute. I'm going to ask you to unmute. We are also live streaming to YouTube, so I'll remind you that while you need to prove your burden under Texas law, I'm going to ask you not to get into too many specifics for the protection of your client as well as the decedent. I'm also going to ask you, did you receive the email from Mr. Fields on Friday?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Okay.
We will be arguing. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
Can you hear me, Judge? I just want to be sure my sound's working.
It is, but you cut out whatever
Okay.
you said a second ago.
Yes, we did receive the email. We are arguing that the language of the will sets up an independent executorship, although it does not state that specifically. And I do have some law to cite on that if the court needs it.
Okay, yes, I will entertain your argument.
Okay. Your Honor, the will itself states that any successor or alternate executor shall have all the rights, powers, privileges, and immunities of the originally named executor. No executor shall be required to make or file any inventory, appraisal, return, or account, or report to any court. Are required to post bond unless otherwise required to do so, notwithstanding this provision.
Right.
I'm sorry, Ron.
That's right.
And we state that operating without the court supervision is really the definition of an independent executor. She's also not required to post any bond. That is also in there. And we would state that also lends substance to our argument that she should be an independent executor in this particular case. The case precedent I have is In re Doolin's estate, cited at 244 Southwest 2nd, 242. On the third page of that decision, page 244, it says it's not essential that the exact words of the statute be used in the will. That's when they're referring to whether or not there was an independent executor. There's also other cases cited as well. At that point, they were interpreting the statute that sets up the independent executorship under the old probate code, which is essentially the same section that deals with independent executor in the estates code now. We would state that the key language here is to operate without reporting to the court. We think that the testator's intent is clear that it should be an independent action or an independent executor that should be appointed in this particular case. And we would respectfully submit and hope that the court agrees.
You can call your first witness.
Okay. Your Honor, I call Ann Spoff.
Tilt the camera down a little bit so I can see her better. Thank you. All right, and you said you have a notary with you?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Okay, is the notary in the room?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you. Ms. Spoth, if you'll please raise your right hand. And if the notary will ask her if she swears to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help her God.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth, so help you God? Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Naylor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, you are the applicant, Ann Spoff, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And we're here on the estate of your mother, Ann Carey Litton's, and I'm sorry.
That's me.
Alberta Henry Litton, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, this was your mother, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And she died on June the 15th, 2016 in Tarrant County, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Now, if the court will take judicial notice, the application for probate was filed before the expiration of the 4-year statute of limitations and was filed on June 12th, 2020.
Okay.
So, at the time that your mother passed away, she was 86, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, she executed a will, that is, she signed a will before she died, is that correct?
That is correct.
This will is dated February the 5th, 1996. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Your Honor, I have a photostat where the court required it be marked as an exhibit.
You have a what?
I have the photostat of the will that I'm going to ask questions of the witness.
Well, per the hearing letter, I need you to prove it up as a copy per the Texas Rules of Evidence, and then I'll have some questions at the end.
Okay. Your Honor, I will then not call it an exhibit, but just the last will and testament of Alberta Henry Litton. Now, you had care, custody, and control of the original document, the original will of Alberta Henry Litton, your mother, is that correct?
That is correct.
She gave it to you for safekeeping, is that right?
That is correct.
You are familiar with the original document? is
Yes,
that
I
right?
am.
I'm going to hand you, it's purported to be a photostatic copy of that original will. Have you examined that particular document before?
Yes, I have.
Is that a true and correct copy of the original document, the original will of your mother?
It is. Yes.
We would offer this will, Your Honor, the photostat, as an exhibit.
Okay, well, there's no recording and there's no real way to get it to me. So I'm going to ask a couple questions using the original will at the end, and then it will essentially, it's already here. So I'm just going to
Okay.
that it's the original, and you've shown she's seen the original and she had it in her control. And so if you'll continue asking her some questions.
Okay, certainly, Your Honor.
Thank you.
As we've represented to the court before, this language, this will has certain language concerning the executor. Is that correct?
Yes, it does.
Now, the first person that was named as an executor was Jack L. Litton, the father. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And of course, he cannot serve as executor because he died on March 15th, 2009. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. After he was first named as executor, the will then named James L. Litton to serve as executor. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's your brother, is that right?
That is correct.
And he has declined to serve as executor in this case.
That is correct.
And for the court's information, there is a declination on file from that particular. You are named next in line as executor, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, the will does not specifically say independent executor, but it says that an executor in this case should be required to post no bond and shall be required to make an inventory only if necessary and should not report to any court. Did I read that correctly?
That's correct.
In fact, it says no executor shall be required to make or file an inventory, appraisal, return, or account or report to any court or be required to post bond unless otherwise required to do so. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And so you're asking this court to appoint you independent executor pending the facts that we will prove up. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Now, you and I, first let's go back to the will. On page 4 of the will, you'll see that there is a signature. And the name under it is Alberta Henry Litton, the testator. Is that what it says?
Yes,
Are you familiar with your mother's signature?
I am.
Is that your mother's signature on the document?
Yes, it is.
Now, you and I have discussed what qualifications you must meet in order to be an executor in the state of Texas. Is that right?
Yes,
In that regard, you state to the court, the judge, that you are a resident of the state of Texas. Is that right?
that is correct.
You do not have any felonies on your record from the state of Texas, another state, or the federal jurisdiction. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you have not been named a judge to be incompetent mentally or physically by any court or by any doctor. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you're representing to the court that you're able both physically and mentally to take care of the duties of executive, independent executive in this state. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Now, you do state there is a reason for the meeting and administration of this estate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that is the transfer of some property interests. Is that right?
That is correct.
And that's why you're representing to the court that an administration is necessary in this estate. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right. Okay. Now, you are stating and you are requesting that the court we submit is actually naming you an independent executive by its implicit term, and you're requesting that the court appoint you independent executive of the estate of Gladys Alberta Henry Litton. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You're asking that the judge admit the will to probate, to appoint you as the independent executive, and to grant you letters testamentary without posting a bond. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And just to be sure on that, the will does state you're not to post a bond. Is that right?
Correct.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Spoth, are you also known as Ann Carrie Litton Spoth?
It is my full name. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And was your mother also known as Gladys Alberta Henry Litton?
That is correct.
Okay. So it's the same person, even though the will says Alberta Henry Litton, correct?
She had issues with her name, but yes, that is her full name.
Okay. And did you deliver the original will to your attorney?
I did.
Is it your understanding he delivered it to the court?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I believe to be the original. This is the cover page.
Yes, that is the original, Your Honor.
All right. And it is typed, I guess, each page until we get to page 4. I'm going to show you what's in page 4, and it's black ink.
Yes, sir.
There's
Yes.
a seal right here. Does that appear to be the original you delivered to your attorney?
Yes.
Thank you. I will find that Alberta Henry Litton, also known as Gladys Alberta Henry Litton, was a resident of Tarrant County when she passed away, and that you have proved up her will in accordance with Texas law, and I'll admit her will to probate. I'm going to take under advisement the independent executor so I can go look at the case law, and I will let you guys know later today.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a good rest of your week.
Okay. Same to you, Judge. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to Probate Court 2, Mr. Early. I know your client is with you and we're running a few minutes late.
Okay.
Oh, you want me to step
Yeah,
up?
that's okay. Yes, Your Honor, I have Claudette Cooper with me. She'll be testifying today.
All right. Ms. Cooper, if you'll please raise your right hand, Mr. Early is going to swear you in.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do swear.
Thank you. And Mr. Early, I know you know we are live streaming on social media, YouTube today. So while I know you'll meet your burden under Texas law, please don't give too many specifics for the protection of your client and our decedent.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Ms. Cooper, could you please state your name for the court?
Claudette Marie Cooper.
And was your mother Estelle Ann Hertick?
Oh, yes.
And did she pass away on May 17th, 2020 in North Richland Hills, Tarrant County, Texas?
Yes.
And at that time, was she 100 years of age and residing in Hearst, Tarrant County, Texas?
Yes.
And we have submitted a document in this matter that's dated June 9th, 2004, that's in possession of the court that purports to be your mother's last will and testament. I'm placing before you a document that says copy and that it was filed with the Tarrant County clerk that purports to be a copy of the document we submitted to the court. Do you recognize this document as a copy of your mother's last will and testament?
Yes, I do.
And you recognize the signature affixed to the last page as
Oh,
your mother's
yes.
signature?
Oh, yes.
And did you provide the original of that document to me?
Yes.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did your mother ever revoke or amend this will after
No,
she
she
signed
did
it?
not.
Did she have any children born to or adopted by her after the date she signed that will?
No, she did not.
Did she have any marriage that was terminated after the date she signed that will?
No, she did not.
And does this will name the state of Texas or any charity as a devizee?
No.
And does there exist a necessity for an administration of her estate?
Yes.
And does this will name you, Claudette Marie Cooper, as the independent executor of her
Yes, it
estate?
does.
And are you disqualified from serving as independent executor for any reason you know of?
No.
Are you a resident of the state of Texas?
Yes.
And have you ever been convicted of a felony?
No.
Or a crime of moral
Oh, no,
turpitude?
no.
Okay. And have you ever been adjudicated as incompetent by any court?
No.
Your Honor, no further questions. Pass the witness.
Okay. Ms. Cooper, were you in possession of the original will?
Of the original will? Yes,
Yes.
I brought it to him when we had an appointment.
Is your understanding he delivered it to the court?
What did she say?
You understand that I delivered that will
Yes,
to the
I do
court?
understand that.
Okay, I have what I believe to be the original. This is the first.
Yes.
It's been file marked.
Yes.
And I'll represent to you that everything is typed until we get to the third page.
Yes.
And what I'm pointing to, is that Estelle's signature?
Oh, yes.
And does this appear to be the original will you delivered to Mr. Early?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. I will find that Estelle Ann Hurtick was a resident of Tarrant County when she passed away. You have proved up her will in accordance with Texas law. Will to probate, and I'll find you a proper person to serve as independent executrix.
Yes.
If you'll raise your right hand one more time. You, Claudette M. Cooper, solemnly swear that the writing which has been offered for probate is the last will and testament of Estelle Ann Hurtick, so far as you know or believe, and will you well and truly perform all the duties of independent executrix of her will and her estate?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. I am going to send this order to Mr. Early as well as some information about being an independent executrix. He'll send that to you. That's going to tell you your rights and obligations, but it doesn't substitute for him, and I trust you'll continue to work with him.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. Have a good rest
Okay,
of your day.
thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
morning, Judge.
Good morning. Welcome to Probate Court 2. Thank you for filing your hearing letter and being here even a little early.
I try. This is my client, Julie Langberg.
Nice to meet you. And I'm told you have a notary with you as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to serve as the notary.
Okay. Ms. Langberg, if you will, Ms. Langberg, excuse me, your right hand. And Ms. Irby, if you'll ask her, she swears to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help her God.
Ms. Langberg, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Thank you. I am going to tell you that we are live streaming on YouTube today. So while I need you to meet your burden under Texas law, please don't get into specifics more so than you needed for the protection of your client and the decedent. And also, if you're joining us on YouTube today, you're absolutely welcome to watch, but I'll remind you that recording or reproduction is prohibited and you can be held in contempt. Go ahead, Ms. Reed.
And can you hear us okay, or do I need to move that a little closer?
You're good.
Okay, perfect. It's my first time using my iPad for this, so I just wanted to double check.
Thank you.
All right. Can you please state your name and address?
Julie?
no. That's,
Oh, just name. I apologize.
well, there are certain things I need to know about where she lives, but I don't need a specific address.
Can you please state your name and county and state of residence?
Julie Langberg, Tarrant County, Texas.
All right. And what was your relation to the decedent, Mary W. Ellison?
I'm her daughter.
And are you the applicant in this matter?
Yes.
Did your mother die June 3rd, 2020 in Tarrant County, Texas?
Yes.
And was she domiciled with a fixed place of residence in Keller, Tarrant County, Texas at the time of her death?
Yes.
Have 4 years elapsed since your mother's death?
No.
At the time of your mother's death, did she own real and personal property in Texas with probable value in excess of $20,000?
Yes.
Did she leave a valid written will dated July 28, 2014?
Yes.
Was that will self-proved in a manner prescribed by law?
Yes.
I am going to hand you a copy of the original will that was filed with the courthouse. Do you recognize that as the original document that you delivered to my office?
Yes.
And is it a true and correct copy of the original document that you delivered to my office?
Yes.
Do you recognize your mother's signature on that document?
Yes.
To the best of your knowledge, was this will ever revoked or amended?
No.
And were Hannah Scusi and Linnell Harris the two subscribing witnesses to that will?
Yes.
Did the will name you as the executor?
Yes.
Did your mother have a marriage dissolved after this will was made?
No.
And did she have any children born to or adopted by her after this will was made?
No.
Is it true that there are no unpaid debts of your mother's estate?
Yes.
And did your mother apply for or receive Medicaid benefits on or after March 1st, 2005?
No.
Is there a state governmental agency of the state or a charitable organization named by the will as a devisee?
No.
Are you the sole beneficiary named by the will?
Yes.
Have you investigated the affairs of your mother and determined to the best of your knowledge that there are no unpaid debts owed by your mother's estate and that there is no necessity for an administration of such estate?
Yes.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. Nice job, Ms. Irby. Ms. Langberg, you mentioned that you had the original will and you delivered it to Ms. Irby. Is it your understanding she delivered it to the court?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to show you what I believe to be the original. This is the first page and it's been file marked.
Yes.
I'll represent to you that each page is typed until we get to page 6. And what I'm pointing to, is that Ms. Ellison's signature?
Yes.
And does this appear to be the original will that you delivered to your attorney?
Yes.
And is Ms. Ellison's funeral paid for?
Yes.
And if she had any medical bills, are those all paid for?
I believe they're all paid for, yes.
Okay, everything you've
I haven't
received.
received anything. She had
Okay.
2 insurances, so it should all be squared away.
All right, thank you. We'll find that Mary W. Ellison was a resident of Tarrant County when she passed away, and you have proved up her will in accordance with Texas law. I'll find there's no need for a formal administration, and I'll admit her will to probate as a muniment of title. I've also waived the compliance affidavit since you're the sole beneficiary. I'm going to send the order along with some information to Ms. Irby. It's going to tell you a little bit about a muniment of title, but it doesn't substitute for her, and I trust you'll continue.
Yes.
All right.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank y'all very much. Have a good rest of
Thank
your week.
you, Judge.
Have a good day. Thank you.
You too. All right, good morning. If you're joining us on YouTube, welcome. You are absolutely welcome to watch, but I'll just remind you that recording and/or reproduction is prohibited. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, so I'm going to take care of some inventories, and I'll see you back in a few minutes for our next estate hearing. For all the estates, not mutaments, but independent executors and dependent executors, they all have to file inventories or an affidavit in lieu of inventory. So there are over almost 2,000 that come through our court each year, and I personally look at all of those. So I'm going to get some work done, and I will see y'all all in just a few minutes. Good morning, Ms. Dial, and welcome to Probate Court 2. I have obviously two screens that say Ms. Dial, and they're both muted, so I'm going to ask you guys to unmute. And while you're doing that, I will mention this is the estate of Josephina Frank. We are live streaming on YouTube today, so Ms. Dial, while I need you to meet your burden under Texas law, I am going to ask you not to go into too many specifics for the protection of your client, as well as all right. Is this are you Mr. Gary Buell Frank?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Will you please raise your right hand? And I believe there's a notary with you. The notary is going to ask you if you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
The notary is going to ask you that since they're there with you. Are they? I saw someone.
Yes.
I think she stepped into the other room.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I just asked it to you and you said yes. So hopefully come back to listen to your testimony so they can notarize the proof. All right, Ms. Dial, go ahead.
All right. Mr. Franks, you've been sworn. You are the daughter of the decedent Josefina Benavides Frank. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And your mother passed away on July 6th of this year. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And at the time of her death, her domicile was in Fort Worth, Tarrant County, Texas. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And your mother left a will dated January 27th of 2017, a copy of which you have in front of you. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And can you identify her signature on that document?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And that is her signature?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And to the best of your knowledge, that will was never revoked by her. Is that correct?
Correct.
And after she made the will, she didn't have or adopt any children. Is that correct?
No, ma'am.
What is correct? That
Yes.
she did not. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's also correct that no marriage was dissolved either by death or divorce after she made the will. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And her will names your ex-wife and her former daughter-in-law, Stacy Frank, to serve as the executor. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. But Ms. Frank waived her right to serve as the executor in favor of you, and we filed her waiver with the court. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And you discussed that with her, and that was her wish, and she had expressed that wish to you prior to your coming to see me. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And there's nothing that would prevent you from serving as the executor of your mother's estate. Is that correct? In other words, you've never been judged to be mentally incompetent or convicted of a felony or a crime involving moral turpitude. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And the will doesn't name any state, governmental agency, or charity as a divisee. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And the will was made self-proved. So your mother signed the document twice. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And is it your testimony that with my assistance, you will well and faithfully serve as the executor of your mother's estate and carry out your duties?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And your former wife, Stacy Frank, is going to remain and serve as the trustee of the trust created for yours and her children under the will. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the two of you can work together and get that set up and have her serve in that capacity. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Are you asking the court to appoint you as the executor of your mother's estate?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Frank, to clarify, Josefina M. Benavides Frank was your mother, correct? Or is your
Yes,
mother?
ma'am.
Okay. And she,
Yes, ma'am.
I think y'all had mentioned her name without the initial M, but she has the initial N. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you in possession of the original will when she passed away?
Yes.
Did you deliver that to your attorney?
Yes.
Is it your understanding she delivered it to the court?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to show you what I believe to be the original. This is the first page, and there are initials at the bottom in black ink. I'll represent to you that other than those initials, it is typed until page 6. You mentioned you had seen your mother's signature on there, but there's several signatures. So I'm looking at page 6. What I'm saying to you, is that your mother's signature?
Yes, ma'am.
And page 7 are some signatures of witnesses, and this is page 8. Does this appear to be the original that you delivered to Ms. Dial?
Yes, ma'am.
I will find that Josefina M. Benavides Frank was a resident of Tarrant County when she passed away and approved of her will in accordance with Texas law. I'll admit her will of probate, and I'll find your proper person to serve as independent executor. If you'll raise your right hand one more time. Do you, Gary Buell Frank, solemnly swear that the writing which has been offered for probate is the last will and testament of Josefina M. Benavides Frank, so far as you know or believe, And will you well and truly perform all the duties of independent executor of her will and her estate?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Thank you. I'm going to send the order along with some information to Ms. Dial. She'll forward that to you. It's going to tell you your rights and obligations of as being an independent executor, but it doesn't substitute for Ms. Dial, and I trust you'll continue to work with her.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And Ms. Dial, I'll ask you to put a certificate of service on the items you filed because Ms. Stacy Frank has made an appearance with her declination. Thank y'all very much. I hope you have a good rest of your week.
Thank you, you too.
All righty, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we'll see if our next people are ready. If you're joining us on, welcome to Probate Court 2, and you're absolutely welcome to watch, but I'll remind you that recording or reproduction is prohibited and you can be held in contempt. All right, I don't see our next attorney here, so I am going to get back to work on some of those inventories I mentioned earlier, and I'll see y'all in about 5 minutes. Thorne, welcome to probate court 2. I also showed someone, it just says Alan, that is trying to connect. Is that somebody with you?
No, I know your clerk said she sent the same meeting number to a whole bunch of people. Possibly that's
Send it to everyone, because otherwise I'd be spending more time getting
connecting.
connected in their individual Zoom meetings than I would in substantively getting matters through the court. So I want to spend as much time getting matters to the court, because Zoom already takes us 2 to 3 times longer. Okay, so you're not, everyone is with you. You're not expecting anyone else?
I don't know. I'm here on the Perkins estate.
Right. So is everyone who you need with you, or?
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right. So I think now it says Alan, it's Mr. Bowling. Okay, Mr. Bowling, I'm going to put you in the waiting room for approximately 8 to 10 minutes. Okay. All right, Mr. Thorne. Let's see. Who is with you that will be testifying?
I have Marilyn Ford, who is our applicant, and I have Ms. Brown, a witness.
Okay. And did you receive the email from Mr. Fields on Friday?
I did, Your Honor, and so my interpretation of the will was that it authorized Ms. Ford to act as independent, but Mr. Fields indicated that it wasn't sufficient. If the court interprets the will as being insufficient to name an independent executor, then I know that we have to notify all beneficiaries of the will. I have the 3 primary beneficiaries of the will here who can sign the consent and waiver form, but there are 4 other people who get $25 gifts. And my question would be, do we have to get a waiver and consent form from those de minimis gift beneficiaries?
Yes.
All right, so then the third alternative would be that I'd ask the court to allow us to, we've had some circumstances change and we can offer the will as muniment of title. I realize I have to file an amended application with a new posting, but I'd ask if you would take the testimony today and hold pending posting, and I'll submit a new order.
Mr. Thorne, I don't do that because then we have it posted to allow people to come and either object or that other thing. I know that's just not something I do. I'm sorry.
Well, if then we come back around to the original proposition, is this provision of the will that says that the executor has authority, shall be authorized to carry out all provisions of the will and pay the debts and act without bond. Is that sufficient to name her independent executor? That would be my position.
I'm happy to take a look at that. Do you have any case law or other legal authority you'd like me to look at?
No, I don't have any authority, Your Honor. I just, it's an interpretation of that provision. It looks like if you say the executor is authorized to carry out all provisions, that gives the authority, direct authority to the executor to do her job.
Okay, I can
In the end,
advise it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can take that under advisement.
All right. Then I would suggest we proceed with the testimony, and
Okay.
depending upon your decision.
Mr. Thorne, if you just told me you could do a muniment, then is administration necessary?
No, I don't really think administration is necessary, Your Honor. we just want to get title to it. There's a single property in the estate, a house that he left to his 3 children, and that's really what we're, at this point, need to do.
I'm going to do this. Mr. Bowling is here. It looked like his client was here. So I'm going to let you talk to your clients about how y'all want to proceed and take Mr. Bowling's case, and then I'll come back.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
What is she saying?
All right, Mr. Bowling, welcome again to Probate Court 2. Thank you for filing your hearing letter. You are on mute, so I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. And I'll remind you that we are live streaming on YouTube today. And so if you'll please meet your burden, but obviously not get into too many specifics for the protection of your client as well as our decedent. Is this Miss Overton?
Yes.
All right.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good
If you'll
morning.
please raise your right hand. And there's a notary there that's going to ask you if you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Bowling.
All right, would you state your name, please?
Sue Carol Overton.
And you're seeking to probate the will of Marvin C. Overton III,
Yes.
and he was your husband?
Yes.
Okay, and he passed away on April 27th, 2020
That's correct.
in Benbrook, Tarrant County, Texas. And he was 85 when he passed.
Yes.
And obviously 4 years haven't passed since his death.
That's correct.
And at the time of his death, he had a domicile or a fixed place of residence here in Tarrant County.
Yes.
All right, I will show you a copy of your husband's will. This is an exact copy of the original will that you brought to my office when your husband passed. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
All right, and you recognize your husband's signature on each page of this document?
Yes.
All right, and that is his signature?
Yes, it is.
All right, on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages.
Yes.
All right, and this will was dated November 5th, 2018.
That's correct.
All right, and when your husband signed this will, he was of sound mind?
Yes.
To your knowledge, was this will ever revoked by your husband?
It was not.
All right, were there any children born to or adopted by him after the date of the will?
No.
All right, your husband was married twice, he was divorced once, and he was married to you at the time of his death.
That's correct.
There was no divorce or dissolution of marriage after the date of the will.
No.
All right. You have personal and full knowledge of the financial affairs of your husband?
Yes, I do.
Are there any debts owed by your husband?
No.
All right. So all his medical bills and funeral and everything's been paid?
That's correct.
All right. Your husband's will didn't name either the state of Texas, a governmental agency of the state, or charitable organization as a beneficiary?
No.
And you and his children are the beneficiaries of your husband's will.
That's correct.
And you're asking the court to admit the will to probate as a muniment of title.
I am.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Overton, is his funeral paid for?
Pardon me?
Is his funeral paid for?
Yes, it is.
Okay. If there were any medical bills, are those all paid for?
Yes.
Okay. I will find that excuse me. Did you have the original will when he passed away?
I did.
Did you deliver that to Mr. Bowling?
I did. Yes.
So your understanding he delivered it to the court?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to show you what I believe to be the original. This is the first page. Is this Mr. Overton's signature that I'm pointing to?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll represent to you it is typed other than the signature at the bottom. And this is page 5. And page 6. And the last page. Does that appear to be the original you delivered to Mr. Bowling?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I will find that Marvin C. Overton III was a resident of Tarrant County when he passed away, and you have proved up his will in accordance with Texas law. I'll find there's no need for a formal administration, and I'll admit his will to probate as a muniment of title. I'm going to send the order along with some information to Mr. Bowling. He'll forward that to you. going to tell you about a mutament of title, but it doesn't substitute for him, and I trust you'll continue to work with him throughout this matter.
Thank you, I will.
All right. Thank y'all very much. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank
Thank you, Your
you.
Honor. I
Thank
have
you.
another one coming up here in about 10 minutes.
Okay, great. I've got it. The one before you had a few issues they're going to discuss, so I'm going to go back to them and then I'll look for you, but I won't kick you out of the waiting room. I'll just
All right.
put it in there.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, if you're joining us on YouTube, welcome to Probate Court 2. You are prohibited from recording or reproduction. You can be held in contempt of court, but we absolutely encourage you to watch. All right, Mr. Thorne, you're on mute. Do y'all need some more time, or have you decided what you're on mute? So I'm gonna ask you to unmute, but let's see if y'all needed more time or you're ready to proceed. Mr. Thorne, I think you're talking because I see the mask moving, but you're on mute. So at the bottom left, there should be a thing that pops up that you can unmute yourself, or there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'm ready to present the witnesses, Your Honor. It depends on the court's decision on whether or not our executor determination in the will is sufficient to allow her to serve as independent executor. Because obviously, if not, then we have to comply with the notice to beneficiaries.
Okay, so you believe that there is an administration necessary?
Well, it could be. We do have a potential lawsuit that now has come up.
No.
No. Okay. So we don't need administration, Your Honor. So I'm going to have to file an amended application for muniment of title.
Okay. All right, well, we will look for you to reset.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Thorne.
Sorry.
That's all right. Y'all have a good rest of your week.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Mr. Bowling, if you're ready to proceed on the Kennard case, we are ready to hear you.
All right.
All right.
Good morning again, Your Honor.
Good morning. Is this Miss Doris Harrington?
Yes.
All right. Miss Harrington, if you'll please raise your right hand. And there's a notary that's going to ask you if you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Hold on. Getting my notary, Your Honor.
Oh,
Hold
I'm
on.
sorry.
That's all right.
And Miss Harrington, I'm going to ask you if you can move a little more into the screen. And Mr. Bowling, I can hear you. I don't necessarily need to see you. No offense, but
All right. I understand, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Bowling.
All right. Would you state your name, please?
Doris Harrington.
And you're the applicant seeking to probate the will of Patricia Jean Kennard.
Yes.
And she was your friend as well as your sister-in-law.
Yes.
All right. She passed away on July 16th, 2020 here in Fort Worth, Tarrant County, Texas.
Yes.
And obviously 4 years haven't passed since her death.
No.
At the time of her death, she had a domicile or a fixed place of residence here in Tarrant County.
Yes.
I will show you a copy of the will that we have filed with the court. Now, you brought the original of the will to my office. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And I will show you each of these 7 pages of this copy of the will and ask you if you recognize Miss Kennard's signature on each of those pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Yes.
All right, and that is her signature.
Yes.
All right. This will is dated June 26, 2019. On that date, was she over the age of 18?
Yes.
Was she of sound mind?
Yes.
All right. To your knowledge, was this will ever revoked by Miss Kennard?
No.
All right. Were there any children born to or adopted by her after the date of the will?
No.
There was no marriage or divorce that took place after the date of the will?
No.
No. A necessity exists for the administration of the estate. There are several things that need to be done in regards to this estate. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And you're named in the will to serve as the independent executor without bond or any other security?
Yes.
All right. To your knowledge, you're not disqualified from serving as the independent executor?
No.
All right. You haven't been convicted of a felony or judged to be mentally incompetent by a court?
No.
All right. And are you asking the court to appoint you as independent executor and that you be granted letters testamentary in this matter?
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Miss Harrington, do you live in Texas?
Pardon me?
Do you live in Texas?
Yes.
Okay. Were you in possession of the original will?
Not at the time of her death.
Okay. Did you see the original will at any time?
No.
Okay. All right. Mr.
Brought it. Yeah.
Oh.
Did you have possession of the original will?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Well,
Did I have?
Who had Miss Kennard's original will when she passed away?
I was given it when she passed away, and I brought it to
Okay.
Mr.
So
Bowling.
you did have possession of the original will at one time?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. And you've seen it, right?
Yes.
Okay. And is it your understanding that Mr. Bowling filed it with the court?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I believe to be the original will. It's been file marked. And the signature you mentioned earlier appears on the first page.
Yes.
And each other page, other than her signature, it is typed. And when we get to page 5, this is page 5. And this is the last page. Does that appear to be the original will you delivered to Mr. Bowling?
Yes.
Okay. I will find that Patricia Jean Kennard was a resident of Tarrant County when she passed away, and you have proved up her will in accordance with Texas law. I'll admit her will to probate and I'll find you a proper person to serve as independent executrix. If you'll please raise your right hand one more time. Do you, Doris Harrington, solemnly swear that the will has been offered for probate is the last will and testament of Patricia Jean Kennard, so far as you know or believe, and will you well and truly perform all the duties of independent executrix of her will and her estate?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'm going to send the order along with some information to Mr. Bowling. He'll forward that to you. It's going to tell you your rights and obligations as an independent executrix, but it doesn't substitute for him, and I trust you'll continue to work with him.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I did notice on the order, it dated the will as 2010 instead of 2019.
I have filed an amended order this morning, Your Honor. I noticed that myself, so.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that the proof was correct. Just double check that before Ms. Harrington signs.
The proof in paragraph 3 states that the will is dated June 26, 2019.
Okay, all right, great. Thank y'all so much and have a good rest of your week.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. All right, we are a little bit early because of the cancellation, so I am going to get some work done in about 8 minutes. Good morning, Mr. Barr. Oh, it's connecting. Good morning, Mr. Barber, and welcome to Probate Court 2. You are on mute. I'll ask you to unmute. Thank you for filing your hearing letter. It says that your client will be attending from her own computer, but I don't see her in the waiting room.
She was originally going to join on her own computer, but she is in front of it. You should.
Okay, I didn't know if that was your client, or sometimes we have other people helping with the computer.
No. Teresa Pullman, this is.
All right.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Your mask.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Is there a notary to swear her in? It's okay.
No, the notary didn't show up.
Okay. That's all right. Ms. Pullman, will you please raise your right hand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Barber, I'll remind you, we are live streaming on YouTube. So while I need you to meet your burden under Texas law for the protection of your client and the decedent, please don't get into too many specifics. All right, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please state your full legal name as it appears on your Texas driver's license.
Teresa Marie Pullman.
And you are the applicant in this proceeding, asking the court to admit to probate the last will and testament of your husband.
Yes.
Are you a person interested in the estate?
Yes.
And you are designated as a beneficiary under the terms of your husband's will?
Yes.
And where do you currently reside, Ms. Pullman?
3311 Cornell Drive.
No.
Oh, not.
I do not want to hear your address on social.
Okay.
Do you live in Texas?
I live in Texas, yes.
Thank you.
I wore my Texas mask this morning, sorry.
All right.
And may service be had upon you at that address. It's on file in the record in this case.
Yes,
And how long have you lived at that address?
almost 17 years.
And why are you here today before this court?
For the probate of the will of my husband, is it okay to say his name?
Yes.
Jason Gerald Pullman. Sorry, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I don't like addresses in the addresses or social security or anything like that. I don't want to put that on social media.
Thank you.
And so how did you come to know the decedent?
He was my husband.
Thank you. And what day were you and the decedent married?
August 14th, 1989.
And on what day did your husband pass away?
October 29th, 2019. Sorry, I didn't expect to get emotional.
That's all right. If there's some tissues, you can grab a tissue.
Let me hand you an unmarked document that's a death certificate of Jason Pullman. Have you seen this document before?
Yes, sir.
And you are prepared to file immediately after this hearing, sign a document entitled Proof of Death and Other Facts?
Yes.
And you're relying upon not only your personal knowledge, but the death certificate in front of you to sign that document at the conclusion of this hearing?
Yes, sir.
On the date of your husband's death, how old was he?
57.
And was he domiciled in, and did he have a fixed place of residence in Texas on the time of his death?
Yes.
Did the decedent own real and personal property at the time of his death?
Yes.
It's all located here in the state of Texas?
Yes.
Both the real and the personal property?
Yes.
And the real property is located here in Cherry County. Did the decedent own any other real property at the time of death?
Mr. Barber, you froze. You froze when you were talking about it, the real property.
Maybe that did it.
County.
No.
So I didn't hear the answer to that question or the next question.
Let's repeat that the last question.
Did the decedent own any other real property other than the homestead property located here in North Texas?
No.
Did the decedent own any other personal property on the date of death other than what you intend to identify in the inventory appraisement list of claims to be filed in this estate?
No.
would you generally describe the property owned by your husband at the time of death as his homestead, items of personal property consisting of an automobile, household goods, and personal effects?
Yes.
And would you guesstimate that the approximate value of your husband's estate is about $72,000?
Yes.
Are you aware of your responsibility under the inventory or appraisement list of claims that you intend to file in connection with this case?
Yes.
And you're aware of your responsibility to list all the assets of the estate that are known to you at the time you sign the document?
Yes.
Did your husband leave a document entitled Last Will and Testament prior to his death?
He did.
And did you find that document amongst his other important books, documents, and papers in this case?
Yes.
Would you know the document if you saw it?
Yes.
Let me hand you what's entitled Will of Jason Gerald Pullman, and ask you if this is the will you've asked to be admitted to probate in this case.
Yes, sir.
Would you go to the signature page and see if you can identify the signature on the document?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize the signature as being the signature of your deceased husband?
Yes.
And you're asking the court to admit that will into probate.
Yes.
And does the will identify you as the personal representative or the independent executrix of the estate?
Yes.
Did your husband's will designate any other party or parties to serve in the capacity of personal representative or executor?
Repeat that, please.
Were there any parties other than you that were identified in your husband's will as the independent executor or personal representative of the estate?
No.
No, there was.
There was. Okay. Yes.
Hughes.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
And you did file in this case a waiver from Mr. Hughes agreeing to allow you to serve as executrix of the estate.
Yes.
And you asked in the court to take judicial notice of that document.
Yes, please.
That should be on file in this case.
Yes.
You're asking the court to admit and to probate the document that I've handed you entitled Last Will and Testament of Jason Gerald Pullman.
Yes.
And as far as you know, that's the same document that was filed in this case.
Yes.
Did your husband leave any other written documents that might be remotely construed as a will?
No.
You couldn't find any other writings, scribblings, any type of documentation that might even remotely be construed
No.
as a will?
No.
And what is the date of the will?
May 12th, 1997.
And to your knowledge, did your husband leave any other written documents after May 12th of 1997 that might be construed as a will?
No, sir.
To your knowledge, did your husband ever revoke the document that you've identified as his last will and testament?
No.
Are you generally familiar with the witnesses that witness your husband's signature on the last will and testament?
Yes.
You know who they are.
Yes, they were co-workers of his.
Could you track them down if you had to today?
No.
But you know where you might begin to search for them.
Yes.
But to your knowledge, they're not readily available. You couldn't, maintain a close relationship with them.
No.
Do you recall the names of those witnesses?
Charles Oglesby and J.C. Burge.
Mr. Barber self-approved, so, and you're frozen. Mr. Barber, I'm not sure if you can hear me, you were frozen, but the will is self-approved, so we know who the witnesses are. There's no need to track them down or be able to.
Right. Based on the discussions that you and I have had, the will that you've asked to be admitted into probate in this case is what lawyers call a self-proving will.
Yes.
Based on the conversations you and I have had about the administration of this estate, do you believe a necessity exists for the administration of your husband's estate?
Yes.
And why do you believe that a necessity exists for the administration?
Access to bank accounts. He's got a bank account that I need to have probated will for.
Are there any debts to the estate that you're aware of?
You mean like the bills that he owed when he passed?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's your understanding that you're obligated to send out notification to the secured creditors?
Yes.
And do you know the difference between a secured and unsecured creditor?
Yeah.
The secured creditor, is it your understanding that a secured creditor is someone who has collateral that may be seized or sold in order to satisfy all or a portion of the debt?
Yes.
And then unsecured creditors fall in the general category where they will have to file suit against you if they wish to collect the debt.
Yes.
And the decedent in this case wasn't your husband,
Yes.
and you were not divorced, of course, after the date of his death.
No.
And you were living together at the time of your death, at the time of his death,
Yeah.
excuse me. Does your husband's will authorize you to serve without bond or other security?
Yeah.
Does your husband's will name the state of Texas, the governmental agency, or the state of Texas for a charitable organization as the trustee?
No.
Are you asking the court to admit your husband's will into probate?
Yes.
Have you ever been convicted of a felony before
No.
in this state or any other state?
No.
Are you asking the court to authorize you to serve as independent executrix of your husband's estate
Yes.
and to administer the estate according to law?
Yes.
Are you asking the court to issue letters testamentary to you as the independent executrix of decedent's estate?
Yes.
Are you asking the court to enter such other orders as the court deems necessary and proper for the administration of your husband's estate?
Yes.
We've prepared a couple of documents, one an inventory appraisement list of claims, which you and I have worked rather hard putting together. And you're prepared to sign and file that affidavit as soon as we can find a notary, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that stands as well for the proof of death and other facts. You're prepared to sign that document as soon after this hearing as we can find a notary.
Yes, sir.
And there's also a document entitled Oath of Executrix, which you're prepared to sign and file with the court immediately after this hearing as soon as we can find a notary.
Yes.
Pass a witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Pullman, while you only have to live in Texas, there's a different standard for your husband. Prior to his death, did he live in Tarrant County?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when he made his will on May 12th, 1997, were you married?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you continue to be married to him, no breaks or remarriages or anything until his death?
Yes, ma'am. 30 years.
Thank you. Did he have any children born to or adopted to him after the date of the will?
No, no, ma'am.
Okay. Were you in possession of the original will?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you deliver that to Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Is it your understanding he delivered it to the court?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And what you were looking at, is that a true and correct copy of the original?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I have what I believe to be the original. I'm going to show it to you. It has been file marked, and there are initials at the bottom in black ink. I'll represent to you that everything is typed other than those initials until we get to page 6. Were you familiar with his signature?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What I'm showing to you on the screen, is that your husband's signature?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. And page 7 are the witnesses. And then page 8 is the self-proving affidavit. And this is the last page. Does that appear to be the original you delivered to your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. I will find that Jason Gerald Pullman was a resident of Tarrant County when he passed away, and you have proved up his will in accordance with Texas law. I'll admit his will to probate, and I'll find you a proper person to serve as independent executrix. If you'll raise your hand, right hand one more time. Do you, Teresa Marie Pullman, solemnly swear that the writing which has been offered for probate is the last will and testament of Jason Gerald Pullman, so far as you know or believe, and will you well and truly perform all the duties of independent executrix of his will and his estate?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. I'm going to send the order along with some information to Mr. Barber, who'll send that to you. That's going to tell you about being an independent executrix. Excuse me, it's going to tell you your rights and obligations, but it doesn't substitute for him, and I trust you'll continue to work with him.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Barber, you can file unsworn declarations per the emergency order. So if you want to do that for the oath and proof of death, you can do that so they can get filed today.
Okay.
All right. We are running a little bit late, so I am going to put y'all in the waiting room. I hope you have a great rest of your week and you're free to go.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. And welcome to Probate Court 2. We are running a little late. I apologize. The other hearing went a little long. You are on mute, so I'm going to ask you to unmute. While you're doing that, I'm going to remind you that we are live streaming on YouTube. So while I need you to meet your burden under the law for the protection of your client and the decedent, I'm going to ask you not to get into specifics, especially addresses. I'm still pulling up your hearing letter. Thank you for filing it. And it looks like there is a notary with you. So, okay, Mr. Is it Sawyers?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you. If you'll please raise your right hand. And the notary is going to ask you if you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I'm going to spin my computer, Your Honor, to the notary here. There we go.
Okay.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Anthony
Good
Bruce.
morning.
So would you please state your name?
Randall Lee Sawyers.
And Mr. Sawyers, did Billy Lloyd Sawyers die on July the 18th, 2020 in Tarrant County, Texas at the age of 65?
Yes.
In my questions, I'm going to refer to Billy Lloyd Sawyers as decedent. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yes.
Was the decedent your brother?
Yes.
Did both of decedent's parents predecease him?
Yes.
Besides you, decedent had only one other sibling, Ross Sawyers, correct?
Yes.
Decedent had only one child, Kirby Sawyers, correct?
Yes.
Ross Sawyers and Kirby Sawyers are both alive and both aware of these proceedings, correct?
Yes.
To the best of your knowledge, did decedent leave a valid written will dated October the 1st, 1998?
Yes.
Has that will been filed with the court?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, the will was never revoked, correct?
Yes.
Are you named as independent executor in the will?
Yes.
At the time the will was executed, was decedent married to Mary Ruby Sawyers?
Yes.
And did decedent remain married to her until Mary Ruby Sawyers died on July 22nd, 2019?
Yes.
Decedent did not remarry after Mary Ruby Sawyers died, correct?
Yes.
4 years have not elapsed since decedent's death, correct?
Yes.
And no child was born to or adopted by decedent after making the will, correct?
Yes.
Neither the state, a governmental agency of the state, nor any charitable organization is named as a devisee under the will, correct?
Yes.
Are you a resident of Texas?
Yes.
You have never been convicted of a felony, correct?
Correct.
You are not an incapacitated person, correct?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, are you qualified to accept and not disqualified from accepting letters testamentary and from serving as independent executor of the estate of Billy Lloyd Sawyers, deceased, correct?
Yes.
Does a necessity exist for the administration of this estate?
Yes.
Are you requesting that the court admit the will to probate and appoint you as independent executor of the decedent's estate?
Yes.
With that, Your Honor, we request that Mr. Sawyers be appointed as independent executor.
Mr. Sawyers, do you live here in Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
And did your brother live in Tarrant County before he passed away?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you in possession of his original will?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you deliver that to your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Is it your understanding he delivered it to the court?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to show you what I believe to be the original will. And there's some signature on the bottom, or initials. And other than the initials, it appears to be typed on each page until page 6. Were you familiar with Billy's signature?
Yes.
All right, what I'm pointing to, is that his signature?
Ye- Yes, ma'am.
If you're looking at the screen, not what's in front of you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Last page, does this appear to be the original that you delivered to your attorney?
Yes, that's his signature.
Does that appear to be the original will you delivered to your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I will find that Billy Lloyd Sawyers was a resident of Tarrant County when he passed away, and you have proved up his will in accordance with Texas law. I'll admit his will to probate, and I'll find you a proper person to serve as independent executor. If you'll raise your right hand one more time. Do you, Randall Lee Sawyers, solemnly swear that the writing which has been offered for probate is the last will and testament of Billy Lloyd Sawyers, so far as you know or believe? And will you well and truly perform all the duties of independent executor of his will and his estate?
I do.
All right, thank you. I'm going to send the order along with some information to your attorney, and he'll forward that to you. It's going to tell you some of your rights and obligations as an independent executor, but it doesn't substitute for him, and I trust you'll continue to work with him.
Okay.
All right, thank you all very much. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Welcome.
Have a good day.
You too. All right, we had a cancellation, so we have a few minutes. I'm going to get to work on some things, and I'll see you in a few minutes. If you're joining us on YouTube, you're absolutely welcome to watch, but you may not reproduce or record. You can be held in contempt of court. Good morning, Mr. Donovan. Welcome to Probate Court 2. We are live streaming on YouTube. So while I ask you to, of course, meet your burden under Texas law, if you won't get into too many specifics for the protection of your client as well as the decedent. We're here today on the estate of Carol Lynn Scannell. I hope I said that right. And you're on mute, Mr. Donovan, so I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. And I know y'all have a notary present.
You, Judge.
Hello. All right. Are you Michael William? Is it Scannell? Is that correct?
Scannell.
Thank you. Will you please raise your right hand? And I'm told there's a notary there, and that notary is going to ask you if you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth. And okay.
Well, he's going to get the notary.
Oh, okay.
I think she's in the next room.
All right. Well, you're welcome to put your hand down.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Interesting how we're doing things these days. Interesting how we're doing things these days. All right. Mr. Scannell, will you please raise your right hand now? And the notary is going to ask you if you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God.
All right.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can proceed.
Okay. So, you are Mr. Scannell? Yes. Okay. And you're familiar with Carol Lynn Scannell? That's my wife. And she passed away on June 21st of 2018? Right. Okay. And at that time, she was living in Tarrant County? Yes. Okay. And she had lived in Tarrant County for at least 90 days before that time? Oh, yeah. Okay. And do you recognize this will? Yes. Okay. And do you see the file mark copy at the top says August 31st, 2020? That's right. Okay. And so this is a copy of the will that you provided to me to file with the court. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay. And do you recognize your wife's signature? Yes. Okay. And at the time that she executed this will, did you believe her to be of sound mind? Yes. Okay. All right. And as far as you know, it was never revoked and no codicils were made after that date? No, none. Okay. Let's see. And you were named as the executor in the will, is that correct? That's right. And there's a necessity to have an administration of the estate? No, like, I'm not sure. So you need to have a probate done in order to take care of business? Okay. All right. Let's see. And you guess that the probable value of the estate is over $200,000, is that correct? Yes. All right. And after the will was executed, y'all were not divorced? No. And there were no children adopted or born after the date of the will? No. Okay. And as far as you know, no one has contested or objected to the will? No. All right. And the will does not name the state of Texas or any governmental agency or any charitable organization as someone who would receive under the will? No. All right. And you are also entitled to be the independent executor. You have never been charged with an offense of moral turpitude, and you don't have any felonies that you've been charged with, is that correct? No. Okay. Judge, I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, you went through that really quickly and a couple
sorry,
things
Judge.
you said correct, and then he said no. So I'm going to clarify a few things.
Okay.
First of all, Mr. Scannell, now that you're under oath, your full name is Michael William Scannell. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And your wife, she lived in Tarrant County. Did she also die in Tarrant County?
Yes,
And was she 74 years of age?
that's correct.
Okay. You live here in Texas still?
Yes.
Okay. And have you ever been convicted of a felony?
No.
Have you ever been adjudicated incompetent? Have you ever
been adjudicated incompetent? No.
Okay. And were you in possession of the original will?
Yes.
And you delivered that to your attorney?
Yes.
It's your understanding he delivered it to the court?
Yes.
And what you were looking at earlier, is that a true and correct copy of the original will?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I believe to be the original will. And it's got initials at the bottom. Otherwise, each page is typed other than those initials until we get to page 4. Were you familiar with your wife's signature?
Yes,
All right. And what I'm showing you on the screen, is that your wife's signature?
that's it.
And then page 5 are some witnesses that have signed, and this is the last page, page 6.
That's correct.
Does that appear to be the original will you delivered to your attorney?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I will find that Carol Lynn Scannell was a resident of Tarrant County when she passed away, and you have proved up her will in accordance with Texas law. I'll admit her will to probate, and I'll find your proper person to serve as independent executor. If you'll raise your right hand one more time. Do you swear or affirm that the will presented is the last will and testament of Carol Lynn Scannell, so far as you know or believe? And will you well and truly perform all the duties of independent executor of her will and her estate?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. I've signed the order. I'm going to send that to Mr. Dunavant along with some information he'll forward to you. Talks about being an independent executor and it's your rights and obligations, but it doesn't substitute for your attorney, and I trust you'll continue to work with him.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome. All right, we have one more left, and I think they have actually are here, so we'll go ahead and take them a minute early. Good morning. Oh, they're not connected to audio yet. Good morning and welcome to Probate Court 2. You are muted, so I'm going to ask you to unmute it. While you're doing that, I'm also going to let you know that we are live streaming on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're welcome to watch, but you cannot record or reproduce in any manner. You can be held in contempt. And in order to protect the privacy of our decedent as well as our as your client, if you'll please meet your burden under Texas law, but not get into too many specifics since we are live streaming. All right. My understanding that, are you Mr. Givens?
Yes.
Okay. If you'll please raise your right hand. And the notary is going to ask you if you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth?
The truth,
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Bashar, you can go on. You can continue.
Good morning, Your Honor. Thank you for seeing us remotely. Can you hear me okay?
You're welcome. And I'll just point out that I'm prohibited to see you in person. Interestingly, you can come and watch because COVID won't get you if you're watching. But if you come to seek justice and to prove up a will, evidently you are highly at risk and may not come to the courthouse. I wish they would allow us to open our courthouse with reasonable precautions, but unfortunately my hands are tied. So thank you for being here.
We're here today on an application to probate a will for Olin Wellborn Gibbons. That is Sam, the applicant's father. And I'm just going to present Sam quickly and run through the proof. Sam, what's your relationship to the decedent Olin Wellborn Gibbons?
He was my father.
And we prepared up a proof of death and other facts. Have you reviewed that today? You can look at me, Sam. Have you reviewed this document today?
Yes.
Okay, is everything that's contained in this document true and correct?
Yes.
All right. When did the decedent pass away?
July 18, 2020.
Where was he domiciled in what county at the time of his death?
Tarrant County, Texas.
Okay.
Did your father?
And Mr. Bashir, I want to make sure that he's actually testifying and not just reading. Of course, you can lead the witness. I don't think anyone's going to object.
Okay. Did your father leave a written dated October 25th, 1996?
Yes.
Did you request that we as your attorneys have citation be issued by the clerk and served, posted, and returned in the manner required by law?
Yes.
Do you have personal knowledge of the financial affairs of the decedent?
Yes.
Is it true that under the will that you're appointed as the independent executor with no need to post a bond?
Yes,
Is it true that no state governmental agency of the state nor charitable organization is named in the will as a devisee?
yes,
After the date of the will, which is October 25th, 1996, was any child born to or adopted by the decedent?
no,
After the decedent executed the will on October 25th, 1996, was any marriage of the decedent ever dissolved, such as by divorce?
no,
Are you named in the decedent's will to serve as independent executor and to act independently without bond or other security?
yes.
Are you currently domiciled and currently reside at 7216?
Oh, no, 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 no.
Not that part?
Live streaming on YouTube.
Okay, we'll skip that part.
Sir, if you'll please turn off your phone. You can't skip that part. You need to prove up your burden under Texas law, but Texas law does not require a specific address. Mr. Gibbons, do you live in Texas?
Do you live in Texas?
Yes, I live in Texas.
All right, go ahead.
Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
No,
Are you asking the court to admit the will to probate and issue you letters testamentary under this will?
yes,
Believe we presented all the evidence.
Well, I disagree. If you had read the hearing letter, you should have proved up the will as a copy under the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure. And I'll have a couple other questions for Mr. Gibbons. Have you ever been, okay, I'm getting feedback. I don't know if I'm frozen or y'all are frozen or not, part of the Zoom issue. Mr. Gibbons, have you ever been adjudicated incompetent by a court of law?
don't know what that means.
Okay, has anyone ever said that you can't take care of your own affairs, either personally or financially?
No, never.
Okay. Were you in possession of the original will of your father?
I reviewed it, yes.
Were you in possession?
Okay.
No, it was at his safety deposit box.
Okay, did you go get it from his safety deposit box?
Yes,
Did you deliver that to your attorney?
yes,
Is it your understanding he delivered it to the court?
yes,
All right, and were you familiar with your father's signature?
yes,
Okay, I'm going to show you what I believe to be the original will. This is the first page. It's been file marked. It is typed other than initials at the bottom of each page until you get to page 5, excuse me, until you get to page 4. On page 4, what I'm showing you on the screen, is that your father's signature?
yes, it is. And I was there when he signed it.
Okay, I'll show you page 5.
Yes,
The last page, 6. Does this appear to be the original that you delivered to your attorney?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, and now that you're under oath, is your full name Richard Samuel Gibbons?
Samuel Richard Gibbons.
Oh, excuse me, thank you. All right, I will find that Olin Wellborn Gibbons was a resident of Tarrant County when he passed away, and you have proved up his will in accordance with Texas law. I'll admit his will to probate, and I'll find you a proper person to serve as independent executor. If you'll raise your right hand one more time. Do you swear or affirm that the writing which has been offered for probate is the last will and testament of Olin Wellborn Gibbons, so far as you know or believe, and will you well and truly perform all the duties of independent executor of his will and his estate?
Yes,
All right. I'm going to send the order along with some information to your attorney. He's going to forward that to you. It's going to tell you about your rights and obligations as an independent executor, but it doesn't substitute for your attorney, and I trust you'll continue to work with him.
thank you.
All right. Thank y'all very much. Have a good rest of your week.
One question, because we're doing this remotely, do I have an assistant who's the notary notarize the oath and the proof of death and other facts? Is that where we do this now?
Correct. I don't have to watch you do it, but you need to file that with the clerk before you'll be able to receive your letters.
Okay, we'll get that done. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we will see you back later this afternoon for some airships. We've had a couple cancel. I will tell you, if you're watching this and you're an attorney or you're client of an attorney, we are backed up until December So a lot of that has to do with Zoom taking 2 to 3 times longer for these pre-vets. For instance, we used to do 3 every 15 minutes. Now we can do 1 every 10 minutes just because of the logistics and getting people to log in and they can't hear, et cetera. With airships, we used to do 2 every 15 minutes. And now we're down to 1 every 30 minutes. So if you are an attorney setting cases or you have an attorney, please don't set them until they are ready, because when we have cancellations, that takes away from other people who are ready to go and unfortunately having to wait until there's an opening. So I hope you have a good rest of your day. And if you want to join us this afternoon, we'll be back.